Most learners plateau at the exact same stage, and it's not because they lack talent. It's because they're taking actions designed for a different stage than the one they're actually in. By the end, you'll understand the 4 stages every complex skill requires, and more importantly, the specific actions that work at each stage. This isn't theory. It's a framework built on how the brain actually consolidates complex skills. Think about your own learning journey for a moment. Have you ever felt stuck despite practicing consistently, then suddenly something clicked? That wasn't random luck. That was you unknowingly shifting to the right stage. This framework makes that shift deliberate instead of accidental. Pause and ask yourself, do I know which stage I'm currently in, with any skill I'm learning? Most people don't, and that's the entire problem. You're applying the wrong strategy to your current situation. A guitarist stuck on finger speed might spend hours drilling scales, when what she actually needs is to slow down and identify which 3-finger patterns are the bottleneck. A programmer struggling with a language might keep reading tutorials when he should be breaking code and analyzing his errors. A tennis player might push harder on every serve when consistency, not power, is what the moment demands. These aren't minor adjustments, they're fundamental misalignments that compound over weeks and months. The framework exists to prevent that waste entirely. Here's what the research shows. Complex skills have something called a latent learning period built into them. That's the gap between when you practice something and when you get meaningful feedback on whether you did it right. Simple skills, throwing a ball, typing a word, give you immediate feedback. You throw, you see where it lands. You type, you see the letter appear. But complex skills like playing an instrument, coding, martial arts, writing, these have delays. You practice a piano passage, but you don't know if it's truly correct until you record yourself and hear the timing issues. You write a sales email, but you don't know if it resonates until you track the response rate. That delay is where most people get confused, frustrated, and eventually quit. They think the problem is them. The actual problem is the mismatch between their stage and their strategy. The framework breaks skill acquisition into 4 distinct stages, each with its own objective and its own optimal actions. Stage 1 is called relevance, and the goal is to figure out what actually matters. This is where most people move too fast through and regret it later. At this stage, you're not trying to perform the skill well yet. You're trying to understand the landscape. A new drummer doesn't need to develop speed. He needs to know which grip is relevant for which styles. Which limbs do I train independently? Where is the feedback even coming from? A language learner doesn't need fluency yet. She needs to know, are tones important in this language or not? Do I prioritize listening or speaking first? What's the minimal grammar I need to be understood? This is exploration and assumption challenging. You're asking questions, testing beliefs, and eliminating confusion. The actions that work here are investigation, comparison, and small-scale experimentation. Watch different drummers play. Notice what changes between them. Record yourself speaking the language and compare it to a native speaker. Don't try to fix it yet. Just notice the differences. The measurement at this stage is binary. Do I understand the structure or not? Have my assumptions been tested? Most people skip this stage or rush through it, which means they spend months later repeating work they could have avoided. Stage 2 is called awareness, and the objective shifts to error identification. This is the plateau phase that most people hate, and most people quit. At this stage, you're finally attempting the skill, and you're failing constantly. A guitarist trying a new technique will flub the notes. A coder writing in a new language will have bugs. A public speaker will stammer and lose their place. But here's what separates people who break through from people who quit. The people who break through treat every mistake as feedback. They're not trying to be perfect yet. They're trying to notice patterns in their failures. The action that works here is deliberate mistake-making, followed by reflection. You play the passage slowly enough that you can feel where your hand positioning fails. You write code with print statements to see where your logic breaks. You film yourself speaking to see where you rush or lose confidence. This feels like you're getting worse, not better, because you're seeing all your mistakes clearly. That's exactly the point. The brain learns through error correction, not through success imitation. The measurement here is how clearly can I identify what's going wrong? Can I name the specific error? The mistake most people make is pushing for perfection at this stage, which actually reverses learning. Speed and consistency come later. Awareness comes now. Pay attention to this part because it's where the system breaks down for most people. When you're in stage 2 and forcing stage 3 actions, trying to be fast, trying to be consistent, trying to perform under pressure, you're actually reinforcing errors faster. A tennis player trying to hit harder, serves, while still developing consistency, will ingrain bad mechanics. A musician will trying to play at performance tempo, while still developing hand awareness, will lock in timing issues. A writer trying to hit deadlines, while still discovering their voice, will develop surface-level habits instead of depth. The frustration people feel isn't because the skill is hard, it's because they're sprinting when they should be mapping. Most people interpret this frustration as, "I don't have talent for this," and quit, but it's actually just misalignment. Stage 3 is called iteration, and the objective is building consistency through cycles. This is the slowest phase, and it's also the phase that separates committed practitioners from casual learners. At this stage, you understand the landscape. You can identify your mistakes. Now you're cycling through micro-adjustments and measuring consistency across repetitions. A saxophonist can now play the phrase, but only 5 out of 10 times. The work is to get it to 7 times, then 8, then 9, then 10. Without losing quality in other phrases. A programmer can now write the function, but only in ideal conditions. The work is to write it while tired, while distracted, while under pressure, and have it still work. A teacher can now deliver the lesson content, but only in a controlled classroom. The work is developing delivery across different class sizes, different student engagement levels, different times of day. The action that works here is varied. Thoughtful repetition with small environmental changes, not random variation, systematic variation. You practice the phrase at different tempos, in different keys, with different dynamic levels. You code the function with different data sets. You practice the presentation to different audience types. Each cycle should feel incrementally better, not dramatically different. The measurement at this stage is, how consistent am I across conditions? What percentage of attempts meet standard? Iteration is where patience separates masters from dabblers. Most people interpret slow progress as stagnation, but slow, measurable progress is iteration working exactly as designed. Most quit here, the ones who don't become competent. Here's where most people misunderstand the system. Stage 3 isn't failure to progress, it's the nature of consolidation. Your brain is building automaticity, the ability to execute under varying conditions without conscious thought. That process requires time, it requires measurement, it requires patience. A drummer might spend 2 months on iteration for a single fill, playing it 50 times a week until it's unconscious, under any tempo, any fatigue level, any distraction. It sounds slow, it sounds boring, but at the end, the skill is truly integrated. When performance pressure arrives, the brain doesn't have to think anymore. This is why discipline matters more than talent at this stage. Talent might get you through stages 1 and 2 faster, but stage 3 is pure consistency building, and consistency beats talent every time. The second mistake people make is trying to accelerate consistency too early. If you try to go faster before you have consistency, you're just increasing your error rate and teaching your brain the wrong patterns. This is a primary reason for demotivation at stage 3. You're working hard, but you're making mistakes again, which feels like backsliding. It's not backsliding, it's incomplete consolidation meeting new challenge. The solution is simpler. Lower the challenge until consistency returns, then raise it again by a smaller increments. Stage 4 is called lifelong, and the objective is preservation and evolution. By stage 4, the skill is automatic. A master drummer doesn't think about the grip anymore. Hands just know what to do. But stage 4 isn't done learning, it's maintaining while evolving. Skills without use decay. This is called skill fade, and it's real. Studies on motor skill retention show that without regular use, even highly trained skills degrade over months. But here's what stage 4 practitioners understand. Using the skill in slightly different contexts, different styles of music, different projects, different environments, prevents fade while generating new learning. A master musician doesn't just replay repertoire, she plays in new contexts, with new collaborators, in new genres. A master programmer doesn't just maintain legacy code, He explores new languages, new architecture patterns, new problem domains. A master teacher doesn't just repeat proven lesson plans, she adapts to evolving student needs, emerging content, new pedagogies. The action at stage 4 is varied application with intentional focus. The measurement is whether the skill remains sharp under changing conditions. Most people think stage 4 is relaxation. It's actually the deepest commitment. You're maintaining excellence while refusing stagnation. Now here's what makes this framework actually work for you. Most people are misaligned between their stage and their actions because they've never explicitly identified which stage they're in. You assume you're at stage 3 when you're actually at stage 2. You try iteration when you need awareness. You try consistency when you need understanding. This assumption costs you weeks or months. The solution is ruthlessly honest self-assessment. At the beginning of any new skill, ask, do I understand the landscape? Can I name the components that matter? Have I tested my assumptions? If the answer is no to any of these, you're in stage 1, and your job is investigation, not practice. If you can navigate the landscape, but mistakes are frequent and unclear, you're in stage 2, and your job is error identification, not performance. If you can identify mistakes, but your consistency is still variable, you're in stage 3, and your job is methodical repetition, not pushing harder. If the skill is automatic and you're using it across contexts, you're in stage 4, and your job is evolution, not maintenance of basics. Consider a programmer learning TypeScript. Stage 1. Understanding that TypeScript adds type safety, that compilation happens before runtime, that tooling setup matters more than syntax memorization. This isn't about coding yet, it's about the landscape. Stage 2. Writing TypeScript code, making mistakes with types, analyzing where the errors come from. It feels like you're learning slowly because you're seeing all the errors clearly. Perfect. Stage 3. Writing TypeScript across different projects, refining type patterns, building consistency in how you handle edge cases. Speed is still not the goal. Consistency is stage 4. TypeScript is automatic, but you're now exploring advanced patterns, contributing to open source projects, mentoring others. The skill has become a platform for further learning. Most TypeScript learners never make it to stage 3 because they force stage 3 actions in stage 2. They try to build full projects before understanding their error patterns. They assume the frustration means something is wrong with them instead of understanding they're exactly where they should be at stage 2. This pattern holds across every domain. A cellist learning a difficult concerto moves through the same stages. A sales professional learning a new CRM moves through the same stages. A martial artist learning a new style moves through the same stages. A martial artist learning a new style moves through the same stages. A martial artist learning a new style moves through the same stages. A martial artist learning a new style moves through the same stages. A martial artist learning a new style moves through the same stages. A martial artist learning a new style moves through the same stages. A martial artist learning a new style moves through the same stages. A martial artist learning a new style moves through the same stages. A martial artist learning a new style moves through the same stages. A martial artist. The framework doesn't change. Only the specific actions change based on where you are. Most people fail because they don't know where they are, so they keep applying ineffective actions, hoping harder effort will somehow substitute for right strategy. It won't. Effort at the wrong stage is just expensive failure. Effort at the right stage accelerates dramatically. Here's the brutal truth that separates people who achieve mastery from people who stay stuck. The people who achieve mastery don't practice more. They practice smarter by aligning their actions to their stage. A guitarist at stage 2, practicing 4 hours a day with unfocused technique, integration, develops bad habits faster than a guitarist practicing 45 minutes a day with ruthless error identification. A language learner at stage 1, spending 3 weeks in forums debating grammar, rules advances faster than one, spending 3 weeks drilling sentences without understanding structure. A business professional at stage 3, doing 20 presentations with intentional consistency, building improves faster than one, doing 50 presentations, chasing praise, and failing to measure what actually change. Measurement makes this real. At stage 1, measure understanding. Did I answer my foundational questions? At stage 2, measure error clarity. Can I name this specific mistake? At stage 3, measure consistency. What percentage of reps met standard? At stage 4, measure application breadth. How many different contexts did I practice in this week? When you track these metrics, the stage becomes obvious. When the metrics show stage 2, frequent errors but clear patterns, you stay in stage 2 instead of forcing stage 3 actions. This single shift saves months of wasted effort and frustration. The other critical insight stages are skill-specific, not person-specific. You might be at stage 4 with guitar. The skill is automatic and you're exploring new genres, but you're at stage 1 with drawing. You're still figuring out what matters in composition, what changes between styles, what feedback even looks like the same person at 2 completely different stages with 2 different skills. This is why experts can look like beginners when learning something new. A master musician starting piano is still moving through stage 1 exploration. A high-performing athlete learning a second sport is still in stage 1. The framework is humbling that way, but it's also liberating. You don't need new talent to move through stages, you just need the right actions for the current stage. This is the difference that compounds across a lifetime of learning. The people who master multiple skills aren't superhuman. They're just ruthlessly systematic about identifying which stage they're in and executing the appropriate actions. They know that stage 1 questions that feel basic are exactly the foundation that stage 3 consistency gets built on. They know that stage 2 error identification that feels frustrating is exactly the process that prevents stage 3 from becoming regression. They know that stage 3 repetition that feels tedious is exactly the work that makes stage 4 evolution possible. So they don't try to skip stages, they commit to each one fully, they move through them deliberately, and they achieve mastery because they refuse to waste effort on the wrong actions for their current situation. The simple framework is this: identify your stage through honest self-assessment, execute the actions designed for that stage, measure the metrics that stage requires. When the metrics show you've progressed, understanding is solid, errors are fewer and clearer, consistency is high, the skill works across contexts, then move to the next stage. Most people never do this. They hope their effort is efficient. They assume harder work will substitute for smarter strategy. They quit when stage 2 feels frustrating, instead of recognizing it as data that they're exactly where learning happens. And they never discover that mastery is actually achievable through patient stage-aligned practice. The mistake you're probably making right now is in whatever skill you're developing. You're doing an action that makes sense for stage 3, pushing for performance, chasing consistency, trying to impress someone when you're actually still in stage 2, still learning to identify mistakes clearly. Or you're in stage 1 still confused about what matters and forcing stage 2 mistakes before you understand the landscape. The cost isn't obvious in day 1 or week 1. It's obvious in month 2 when you haven't progressed and you're frustrated by then. Most people have already quit. The ones who stay understand the system. They know the frustration is data. They know the plateau isn't failure. They know the right action, executed patiently at the current stage, compounds into competence over time. The research backs this. Studies on skill acquisition show that compression of learning, trying to accelerate stages through brute force, doesn't work. What works is deliberately moving through stages with stage-appropriate actions. What works is patience that's measured and intentional, not passive. What works is refusing to pretend you're at stage 3 when you're still at stage 2. The timeline doesn't change much. Complex skills still take months, but the result changes dramatically. Instead of burning out, frustrated, having made little progress, you move steadily, measuring improvement at each stage, building genuine competence instead of fragile performance. So here's what to do with this framework. Starting today, pick one skill you're developing, assess ruthlessly. Which stage are you actually in? Not which stage you want to be in. Not which stage sounds impressive. Which stage shows up in your actual practice. If your mistakes are frequent and you're still asking foundational questions, you're in stage 2. Move accordingly. Stop pushing for performance. Start identifying errors clearly. Measure your error clarity, not your speed. If your understanding is solid, but your consistency is variable across contexts, you're in stage 3. Stop adding complexity. Start repeating with intentional variation. Measure your consistency percentage, not your speed. The timeline doesn't accelerate, but the frustration vanishes because you stop expecting the wrong outcomes. You stop interpreting stage 2 frustration as failure. You stop interpreting stage 3 plateaus as lack of talent. You start interpreting them as exactly the process that builds mastery. This is how the people who achieve genuine competence actually practice, not more hours, smarter hours, aligned to stage, measured systematically, executed with patience, that understands where improvement actually happens. That's the framework, that's the system, that's the difference between years of grinding that gets you nowhere and months of deliberate practice that gets you to genuine skill. Practice the framework before anything else, before more hours, before faster tempos, before harder challenges. Identify your stage, execute the right actions, measure what that stage requires, then move this single shift from hoping effort works to ensuring actions aligned to stage is what separate committed learners from stuck ones. Stay aligned to your stage, or stay stuck forever. Next time, the specific measurement frameworks for each stage so you can track whether you're actually progressing.